Can you tell us about the original plans for the Crumlin Road Jail and the significance of them?
These are the original plans. These are part of the original plans of Crumlin Road Jail that we hold. We currently hold 11 of these. And these are significant because these plans are the first time in Ireland where a prison was designed with what's known as radial cellular system. Now that's the design there. This is based in Pentonville Prison in London, and what it's all about is basically the maximum observation of prisoners at all times. So the chief warden would be in the middle in the cellular in the radial part, in the rotunda. He could see the wardens patrolling each cell. They would be patrolling the prisoners. He'd be looking on them. So it's basically about the maximum observation of prisoners at all times. So it's very innovative design, and as I said, it's the first time in Ireland the prison was built using this.
The plans were designed by Charles Lanyon. Can you just tell us a bit of background about the man, and can you provide some examples of his other work around Belfast?
Well, Charles Lanyon is strongly associated with Belfast, although he came from England in the 1830s. He was an apprentice engineer to a gentleman called Jacob Owens, who got a job in Ireland as the chief surveyor of the Irish Board of Works, based in Dublin and then County Kildare. Lanyon came over with them, worked in Dublin, worked in Kildare, and then came up to County Antrim, and this is where he's made his most mark. He was an architect, but he's also a civil engineer. And even a walk around Belfast, even this very moment, you would see evidence of Charles Lanyon's work. You would start off at Queen's University, that magnificent building, which everyone knows, which is really strongly associated with Belfast. That's the Charles Lanyon work. You'd walk into Botanic Gardens, you'd see the Palm House. One of the rarest examples of what they know as curved linear architecture of iron and glass to this day, the Palm House. Walk into the city centre in Belfast and you'd see examples of his work. St Clair Church down in Sailortown, down in the docks, very famous building. Customs House in Belfast, which is regarded by some as Belfast's finest building. That's designed by Charles Lanyon. So the evidence of his work is all around the city. These plans were part of the jail. Crumlin Road Jail opened from the 1850s and closed in 1996. These plans were kept in the jail, but when the jail closed, the plans were handed over to the Department of Justice because they were the custodian of the plans. They came into Prony in 2015, so we're really pleased about that, and we're really pleased that they're going to be open to the public now. They do detail how the Victorians thought about punishment, where people were to be kept isolated, they were to be kept quiet. They were also to be given meaningless hard labour, just to reflect on what they've done. And that was part of the thing in society, for people to reflect on what they've done and basically repent. And these plans details perfectly how the nature of the cells, how the prisoners were kept in isolation, and also how they were controlled and how they were watched. And for example, if we take another look at this scale here, we can see even the exercise yards, where they're screened off, where they're kept by themselves. They weren't allowed to mix with other prisoners. You have the stonebreaker sheds, and you can imagine how that labour, how back-breaking labour. There was nothing cushy about this during these times. You were sent in there, and you were sent in there to basically repent on what you've done, but to think about what you've done so you wouldn't do it again. And these plans perfectly illustrate that example of a mid-Victorian prison. And this is also against when they were building prisons, against the backdrop of the industrialisation of Belfast, because Belfast and cities elsewhere were rapidly rising, the population's increasing, but also during this period crime was on the increase. So what they used to do prior to the Victorian period was send people to Australia, but the Australians didn't want any more convicts, so they needed to build more jails. And so this is a perfect example of this. So for anybody interested in crime and punishment in general, or 19th century Victorian crime, this is a perfect example of a mid-Victorian prison with this innovative design. We have extensive records, particularly from the Victorian period, in the archive. There's things of interest. We have copies of for example, the 1870 Land Act in Ireland. That's really significant in Irish history, the relationship between the tenants and the landowners. We have plans, for example, of Carrickfergus Jail. We have commissioners of Belfast Prison. We have correspondence from them. It tells you about the reason for a prison, what they're wanting to do about it, how they're going to get it built. And we have a really fascinating part of the archive from Antrim Prison, and it's It's prisoner returns from the mid-19th century. It gives examples of people there and what they were in for, and also things like how much it cost to keep them in there. So for anybody interested in crime and punishment or prisons, particularly in the Victorian period, this archive is a really rich resource. I'm really pleased to see that the Crumlin Road Jail isn't just languishing there like it did for many years after it closed, that it is being used. And I had heard recently it was being used for events as diverse as people, concerts, recitals, seminars, conferences. And then I heard this year they're having Belfast's first ever zombie prom. So I think Charles Lanyon would approve.